Welcome the rare gems. Real strength lies in how you control your space and your time, not in how quickly you react to others. Sigma females are the quiet powerhouses of the world. They move through life on their own terms, valuing independence, depth, and authenticity. They don't seek approval or validation from others because they already know who they are. But when it comes to being put on the spot, something shifts. It's not just an inconvenience, it feels like a violation of everything they stand for. Sigma females hate being forced into situations where they lose control, have to give instant responses, or are pushed to perform for someone else's amusement. It disrupts their flow, disrespects their boundaries, and forces them into uncomfortable vulnerability. But this resistance isn't weakness. It's the refusal to be manipulated into a reaction that doesn't align with who they truly are. If you're a Sigma female, you know this feeling all too well, and that's okay. It's not a flaw. It's a sign of your deep self-awareness and need for authenticity. You don't have to justify your resistance. Embrace it. Your autonomy, your inner world, and your pace are yours to control. Watch the video to understand why this is a crucial part of what makes you uniquely strong and how to handle these situations on your own terms. Number 1, they see it as an invasion of their space. For Sigma females, boundaries are sacred. Their mental and emotional space isn't just where they recharge, it's where they process the world, develop ideas, and maintain a sense of balance. Being put on the spot feels like someone barging into that space uninvited, disrupting their sense of control and autonomy. To them, this isn't just a minor annoyance, it's a violation of a deeply held principle. This protective nature isn't about being closed off or unapproachable. It's about preserving their inner equilibrium. Sigma females know how much energy it takes to engage meaningfully with others, and they manage this energy carefully. When someone demands their attention or input without warning, it can feel like their personal boundaries are being disregarded. This triggers discomfort and often resistance, as they instinctively pull back to regain control over their space. What makes this even more challenging is the abruptness of being put on the spot. Sigma females thrive on deliberate, intentional interactions where they can choose when and how to engage. Sudden demands strip them of that choice, leaving them feeling cornered or exposed. It's not just about what's being asked of them, it's about how it's being asked. The lack of consideration for their need to prepare or process can feel like a lack of respect for who they are. This response isn't about avoiding engagement, but ensuring it happens on terms that respect their boundaries. Sigma females value authenticity and depth, but those things can't flourish in a space where they feel intruded upon. By protecting their mental and emotional space, they're not being difficult. They're ensuring they can show up as their true selves when they do choose to engage. Number 2, they dislike performative situations. For Sigma females, authenticity is everything. They thrive in environments where they can be genuine and true to themselves, not in spaces where they feel pressured to perform for the sake of others' validation or entertainment. This is why they instinctively recoil when put on the spot. It creates a dynamic where they feel reduced to an act or spectacle, rather than being appreciated for who they truly are. Performative situations often come with unspoken expectations, the right response, the perfect reaction, or the ability to entertain or impress. To Sigma females, these moments feel artificial and emotionally taxing. They have no desire to meet someone else's standards of what they should say or do, especially when it feels insincere or contrived. The idea of having to play a role, even temporarily, is utterly unappealing and clashes with their deep commitment to authenticity. It's not just the pressure itself that bothers them, it's the underlying implication. Performative situations often prioritize appearances over substance, reducing interactions to shallow exchanges. Sigma females value depth and meaning, and they see these forced dynamics as a waste of energy. Worse, they view such moments as manipulative, designed to draw them out for someone else's benefit rather than for a genuine connection. Their response isn't about arrogance or shyness, it's about principle. Sigma females refuse to compromise their identity just to satisfy others' expectations. When thrust into the spotlight, they are more likely to retreat than to engage in a way that feels false to them. For them, it's not about being difficult. It's about staying true to who they are, even if that means walking away from situations that demand anything less. Number 3, their energy is self-regulated. Sigma. Females are masters of managing their energy. They understand how crucial it is to preserve their mental and emotional resources, carefully choosing when and how to invest them. Their energy is a currency they spend thoughtfully, whether it's on work, relationships, or personal growth. When someone suddenly puts them on the spot, it disrupts their carefully maintained flow. It's not just an inconvenience, it feels like a sudden demand that drains their energy, often leaving them irritated or mentally exhausted. Unlike more extroverted personalities, Sigma females don't draw energy from constant external stimulation or social interaction. Instead, they recharge in solitude, introspection, and self-reflection. They need control over how they engage with the world. So when someone demands a spontaneous reaction or response, it's not just a breach of their time, it's an invasion of their energy. They have to shift from a place of calm, internal balance to a reactive, externally driven state, and that shift can be mentally taxing. This disruption is more than a mere inconvenience. It can leave them feeling disengaged or disconnected from the conversation. They prefer to choose when and where to invest their energy, knowing that a forced or rushed engagement will likely leave them frustrated, drained, and unable to give their best. They value depth and deliberation in all interactions, and when they are forced to act without the time or mental space to process, it feels like a betrayal of their own needs and boundaries. That's why Sigma females are so protective of their time and energy. They don't want to be put in a situation where they're drained for someone else's convenience. If they're forced to give energy to something or someone in a moment when they're not ready, they'll likely retreat, needing to recharge before they can engage meaningfully again. Number 4, autonomy is non-negotiable. Autonomy is the cornerstone of a Sigma female's identity. It's not just about having the freedom to make choices, it's about maintaining the power to decide her own path, control her actions, and set her own boundaries. For her, every aspect of her life is governed by a deep need for independence. When someone puts her on the spot, it feels like an attempt to strip away that autonomy and force her into a situation she didn't choose. It's not just uncomfortable, it feels like a violation of one of her most fundamental values. Sigma females are not inclined to submit to external pressures or expectations, and being coerced into an immediate reaction or response represents everything they avoid. These moments disrupt their ability to act freely and on their own terms. They are forced into a box, a position where they must react to someone else's agenda rather than their own. This loss of control feels like a direct threat to their independence, which they hold sacred. The very act of being put on the spot triggers a deep sense of resistance. Sigma females reject any scenario that forces them to surrender their decision-making power. They have spent their lives cultivating a space where they are the architects of their own experiences, and moments that threaten that sense of autonomy are met with immediate discomfort. To them, being put on the spot isn't just an inconvenience. It's an infringement on their personal freedom. They'd rather withdraw entirely than engage in any situation where they feel forced to participate without choice. At number 5, they're internal thinkers. Sigma females are inherently internal thinkers. They don't rush to voice their thoughts or reactions because they prefer to process them quietly, allowing time to filter, analyze, and comprehend the full depth of what they're experiencing. This internal processing is a vital part of how they make sense of the world, whether it's a complex problem or an emotional reaction. When they are put on the spot, they are forced to react before having the time to fully understand or organize their thoughts, which feels unnatural and uncomfortable. It's not that Sigma females aren't capable of quick thinking or responding under pressure. They absolutely are. They can think critically and make decisions on the fly when necessary. But these moments are rooted in genuine understanding, not a forced performance. Sigma females reserve their sharpness for situations where it truly matters, not for the sake of entertaining or meeting someone else's expectations. Being put on the spot doesn't allow them to give their best response, as it strips away the time they need to filter their thoughts and ensure they're being true to themselves. For them, authentic responses require depth, reflection, and clarity. Rushed moments leave them feeling unbalanced, as they are suddenly required to speak or act without the chance to internalize the situation. Their tendency to process internally is part of their strength, allowing them to respond in a way that is thoughtful and aligned with their true values. So, when forced to react on the spot, they often find themselves unsatisfied with the outcome, frustrated that they didn't have the space to respond in the way they know they could if given the time to reflect. Number 6. Deep sense of privacy. Sigma. Females have an inherent need for privacy that runs deep in their core. It's not just about keeping secrets or being private for the sake of it. It's about preserving the sanctity of their inner world. Their thoughts, emotions, and reflections are deeply personal, and they protect this space fiercely. When they are suddenly put on the spot, it feels like an invasion of their most sacred space. It's as if someone is demanding access to a part of themselves they've carefully guarded. For Sigma females, solitude isn't just a preference, it's a necessity. It's how they recharge, process, and make sense of the world. It's in these moments of privacy that they connect with their truest self, away from external noise and expectations. When someone forces them to step out of that space, to answer a question or react in a way they haven't prepared for, it disrupts their carefully maintained equilibrium. The balance they find in solitude is shattered, and they're left feeling exposed and uncomfortable. This need for privacy isn't about being secretive or closed off, it's about control. Sigma females want to choose when and how they reveal themselves, and being put on the spot robs them of that control. It's a boundary violation that feels jarring and unwelcomed, making them retreat further into their need for space and solitude. They value their privacy not because they fear vulnerability, but because it allows them to live authentically and thoughtfully. Forced exposure through a spotlight moment leaves them unsettled and disconnected from the peace they find in their own company. Number 7. They resist social expectations. Sigma females are natural nonconformists, and one of their defining traits is their refusal to bend to societal expectations. They've carved out a path for themselves that prioritizes independence, authenticity, and self-respect over pleasing others. When they're suddenly put on the spot, it feels like an attempt to force them into the mold society expects of women, agreeable, accommodating, and ready to comply. This is a dynamic they instinctively reject. Unlike those who may thrive on validation or approval, Sigma females don't feel the need to conform to fit in or be liked. Their independence isn't just a personality quirk, it's a conscious choice to live authentically. Being put on the spot, however, disrupts this by creating a scenario where they're expected to perform or deliver on someone else's terms. To them, this isn't just uncomfortable, it's manipulative, as if the situation is designed to strip them of their autonomy. For Sigma females, the act of resisting social expectations isn't about rebellion for its own sake. It's about maintaining their integrity in a world that often pressures women to prioritize others' needs over their own. They recognize that being put on the spot is often less about genuine connection and more about testing their willingness to comply. Whether it's a demand for their time, their opinion, or their emotions, these moments can feel like a subtle but direct challenge to their principles. This resistance isn't rooted in arrogance, but in self-awareness. Sigma females know who they are and refuse to betray that for the sake of appearing agreeable. So when they're thrust into the spotlight, their instinct isn't to accommodate, it's to hold their ground, even if that means stepping away entirely. At number 8, they detest being judged in the moment. Sigma females have a deep understanding of the complexity of people and situations. They know that quick judgments are often shallow, rushed, and fail to capture the nuances of who they are. When put on the spot, they are subjected to the very thing they avoid, being judged in an instant by others who may not have the full picture. This feeling of being unfairly evaluated in a moment of pressure is one of their biggest sources of discomfort. For Sigma females, real understanding takes time. They know that their thoughts, ideas, and feelings don't always fit neatly into a single moment or an easily digestible response. Being rushed into providing a reaction or an opinion leaves too much room for misinterpretation. It's not just about the judgment itself, but the fact that it's based on incomplete information, which feels both unfair and frustrating. They don't like to be reduced to a snap judgment because they believe it distorts their true essence. A Sigma female knows that people often see only the surface, what's visible in a brief interaction, and may fail to grasp the depth of her character, her values, or her intentions. Being put on the spot can feel like an invitation for others to make assumptions about her, which she resists because she knows how easily those assumptions can be wrong. This is why Sigma females avoid situations where they feel they will be instantly judged or misunderstood. They don't want to be evaluated based on a single moment, especially when they know that a true understanding of who they are requires time and context. Instead of rushing to provide an answer or perform in the moment, they'd prefer to retreat, preserving their integrity and avoiding misrepresentation. Number 9. They see it as a reflection of others' insecurity. Sigma females are keenly aware of the dynamics at play in social situations, and they often interpret being put on the spot as a sign of insecurity in others. They recognize that people who force these moments are often trying to assert dominance or fill gaps in their own confidence. For the Sigma female, it's not just an uncomfortable situation. It's a signal that the person trying to put her under pressure is attempting to elevate themselves by making her perform or react. This perception only deepens her aversion to these moments. Sigma females have a strong sense of self and don't need external validation to feel secure. They see through the thin veil of people who thrive on asserting control or forcing responses as a way to feel important or powerful. When someone tries to put them on the spot, it often feels like an attempt to test their boundaries or provoke a reaction for the sake of boosting the other person's ego. Sigma females immediately pick up on this and recognize it as a sign of insecurity, a desperate attempt to create drama or establish dominance. This insight reinforces their disdain for these situations. It's not just about avoiding discomfort, it's about refusing to participate in a dynamic that feels manipulative or rooted in someone else's insecurity. Sigma females prefer environments where there's mutual respect and authenticity, not where one person tries to assert their power over another. When they see this play unfolding, they instinctively pull away, recognizing that engaging would only feed into the very insecurity they disdain. For them, this type of interaction feels hollow and unworthy of their time, reinforcing their desire to avoid being put on the spot at all costs. At number 10, their inner world is sacred. For Sigma females, their inner world is their sanctuary, a deeply personal space where thoughts, ideas, and reflections unfold without interference. They rely on this internal rhythm to navigate life with clarity and purpose. It's not just about being introverted or private, it's about protecting the mental and emotional ecosystem they've carefully built. When someone abruptly demands their attention or pushes them into the spotlight, it's more than just an inconvenience. It's a disruption to their entire flow. This rich inner life isn't something they flaunt or wear on their sleeve. It's a place of quiet analysis, creativity, and introspection where they process their experiences on their own terms. Being put on the spot forces them to react before they're ready, often in ways that feel unnatural or rushed. It's like asking someone to suddenly explain a painting that's only half finished. It's invasive and deeply unsettling. What makes this even more difficult is the sense of exposure it creates. Sigma females don't like being seen before they choose to reveal themselves. When they're caught off guard, they feel vulnerable, as if their inner world is being dragged into the open without their consent. This can leave them feeling unbalanced, frustrated, and even resentful. To others, this might seem like overthinking or an unnecessary reaction, but to a Sigma female, it's about protecting what matters most. Their thoughts and ideas aren't just passing notions. They're the core of who they are. Forcing them to respond or react prematurely feels like stripping away their authenticity and turning their private world into a spectacle. That's a boundary they will always fight to maintain, even if it means withdrawing completely to regain their balance. Number 11. They reject forced vulnerability. For Sigma females, vulnerability is a deeply personal and deliberate choice, not something to be demanded or coerced. They are introspective by nature and capable of profound emotional depth, but they choose carefully when, where, and with whom to share their inner world. Being put on the spot and pressured to open up feels like an attempt to strip away that choice, forcing them into a state of exposure they haven't consented to. This kind of forced vulnerability is not just uncomfortable, it feels disrespectful. Sigma females see it as someone trying to take a shortcut to emotional connection, bypassing the trust and rapport that make true vulnerability meaningful. It reduces something deeply intimate to a public spectacle, turning their personal feelings into a performance rather than an authentic exchange. To them, this isn't just counterproductive. It undermines the very essence of genuine connection. What's often misunderstood is that their resistance to forced vulnerability isn't about being cold or emotionally unavailable. It's about protecting the integrity of their emotions. Sigma females view their inner world as something sacred, not to be shared on command or to satisfy someone else's curiosity. They believe that vulnerability should come from a place of mutual respect and understanding, not as a reaction to external pressure. When someone demands immediate openness, it can feel manipulative, as if the other person is trying to control the pace and direction of the relationship. Sigma females instinctively resist this because it violates their autonomy and disrupts the trust-building process. For them, true vulnerability isn't forced. It's freely given, on their terms, and only to those who have earned it. Anything less feels shallow and insincere, and they simply won't participate. In the end, being put on the spot isn't just a small annoyance for Sigma females. It's a fundamental clash with everything they value. Their need for autonomy, authenticity, and control is what makes them who they are. They don't rush through life or respond just to please others. They take the time to process, reflect, and act on their terms. This is what gives them their strength and depth. So, when someone tries to force them into a moment of instant response, it feels like a violation of their inner world, a place they fiercely protect. But here's the truth. Being a Sigma female is a superpower. You don't need to conform to the expectations of others. Your need for space, your ability to think deeply, and your refusal to be manipulated are all signs of your strength. Embrace the fact that you don't react to pressure. You respond when you're ready, in your own way, and on your own time. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you hate being put on the spot. Your need for control and privacy is yours to define. Keep standing firm in your truth, because the world needs more people who value themselves enough to not be pushed into something they're not. Stay true to your Sigma strength. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video. Bye for now, and God bless.